Tonight, the fallout from the Aboriginal tent embassy protest.
Shame! What's happened in the last few years, the site's been hijacked by just about every motley crew you can think of.
We don't need the gatekeepers, the pet puppets, to talk on behalf of us.
And bubbling down under, the Australian with possibly the best job in the world.
Just the very word itself, champagne, says celebration.
I don't think there's anyone else in the world, quite frankly, who's got the same reputation throughout France as Bernadette.
In the aftermath of yesterday's Aboriginal tent embassy protest in Canberra, the blame game has escalated, and while police haven't laid charges yet, there's already one casualty. A media advisor to the Prime Minister has quit tonight after admitting to tipping off a person about Tony Abbott's whereabouts yesterday. This information was then passed on to protesters who moved to the lobby restaurant to find him, and ugly scenes ensued that have been broadcast around the world. Images of a distressed-looking Prime Minister and the opposition leader running from protesters have already gone viral online, as Deborah Cornwall reports.
We got some new video coming in of Australia's Prime Minister escaping an angry mob.
Losing her shoe and some of her dignity in the process.
It was television gold.
Julia Gillard had to be rescued by her bodyguard.
Square-jawed bodyguard dragging the distressed Prime Minister away from the mob, while Aboriginals in full warrior mode faced off police in a frightening brawl. Opposition leader Tony Abbott may have been the intended target of the tent embassy protesters yesterday, but there's little doubt it was Julia Gillard's dignity and Australia's international reputation that have been the main casualties. And rich pickings for online mashups.
Dignity is a very important issue and we take it seriously, but security is of paramount importance.
I think the rest of Australia needs to come out of their comfort zone and actually realise why we're here today. And that is because human rights breaches are against us every day of the week, 24/7.
It was an embarrassment for Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islander people as a whole. And you can see by the reaction by the majority of people that they did not appreciate it, did not like it, and they're disgusted with the whole thing.
We feel that the situation could deteriorate if we start.
There was one upside to yesterday's clash. The Prime Minister and opposition leader united, if only briefly, as they made their escape.
I think it would be very easy for that blast to be smashed. Bad look for everyone. So would they like us to go straight away?
They'll let us know, but we'll just... no, I think I'm fine. We'll just poof together when we're...
Sure.
Okay, no problems.
Racist! Racist!
Yesterday's flashpoint appears to have been sparked by comments made by Tony Abbott about the future relevance of the tent embassy, given the gains made by Indigenous Australians in recent decades.
Mr Abbott, today's also the 40th anniversary of the tent embassy in Canberra. Do you think it's still relevant or should it move?
Look, I can understand why the tent embassy was established all those years ago. I think a lot has changed for the better since then. We had the historic apology just a few years ago, one of the genuine achievements of Kevin Rudd as Prime Minister. We had the proposal, which is currently for national consideration, to recognise Indigenous people in the Constitution. I think the Indigenous people of Australia can be very proud of the respect in which they are held by every Australian. And yes, I think a lot's changed since then, and I think it probably is time to move on from that.
Protesters who'd been celebrating the 40-year anniversary of the tent embassy widely interpreted the comments as a call to demolish the symbolic site.
I never said what was attributed to me by some of the people at that protest yesterday. And I just ask you, please, I ask you very respectfully, judge me by what I said. My understanding is that at least some of the protest leaders now accept that they had grievously misinterpreted what I said.
The Prime Minister tried to play down the incident today, adamant she'd not been in any real danger, even joking about her lost shoe.
I'm not sure, but it really doesn't worry me. I'm in the fortunate situation where I'm a woman with a few pairs of shoes.
But many Aboriginal leaders were far less forgiving.
Well, it was a disgrace, quite frankly. What's happened in the last few years is the site's been hijacked by just about every motley crew you can think of, running their own agendas, running their own little issues. And for some people who have remained there from the Indigenous side, they're living in the past.
There's a lot of anger and frustration, but I don't think the violent actions we saw last night or yesterday in Canberra have any place in Aboriginal affairs or the Australian society more generally.
Tent Embassy representatives were unrepentant today, their Aboriginal critics only inflaming them further.
I know they call them Jackies, and we don't need the gatekeepers, the pet puppets, to talk on behalf of us when we know exactly what we want. That's right. We want our rights to be heard, and we're going to enforce it.
Those people have lined their pockets for a long time. Those people are coming in now on their white horses to save the poor Aboriginal people.
The protests come just days after the federal government announced its plan to run a referendum as early as next year in a bid to have Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people formally recognised in the nation's constitution. There are already concerns the referendum may be too complex and hard to sell, but this latest spate of protests has touched on even deeper divisions over the referendum within the Indigenous community.
I'd say at this point we have no hope, and why put something up that may embarrass this country and embarrass the Aboriginal people as well as the broader community.
A lot of those demonstrators out there don't even like reconciliation, don't want to be a part of reconciliation. They see it as a sellout. With the Australian community a lot more smarter than we think, Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians will move on.
Deborah Cornwall reporting. Well, as America gears up for the next presidential election, with voting in the Republican primaries well underway, the key focus is whether President Obama has delivered on his promises. But both at home and abroad, there's often